and she said that the High Council had informed Quetzal that they better start putting a probation period on this, and if things didn't get any better, then they were just going to have to stop the contacts as they were happening. And Billy kind of agreed, and they suggested also that he no longer even pass out his contact notes to the members because most of them were not behaving sincerely anyway, and it probably wasn't a good idea. And he agreed to that also. At this point, he's understanding more their viewpoint, where their desires and their interests are not being met or serviced by the group, and so there's no point in really continuing it. Well, the 108th contact is on Thursday, June 1st, 1978. And Ptah and Quetzal come because they want to talk to Billy to just make sure he understands clearly about what's going on with the group. And they're explaining to Billy, they realize all the pressures that are being put on Billy, but Billy, as it's turning out, has been doing so much manual work and spending so much time with the group that he's not having any time to spend on his mission. It's actually been a while since a contact. He hasn't written anything. He hasn't been doing any teaching, and he's getting tireder all the time. And it's turning out that his methods of leadership are not working out, so they just wanted to let him know that they were aware of things were not going well. But it was a very friendly meeting, and they were not really having problems with him personally. They were just noticing how difficult things were going. Billy at this time has given the actual names of the members of the group who are causing all of the problems that should leave the group and not be allowed to return. And there are several names in there, which there's no point in mentioning them now. And one comment was that these people also, something that isn't mentioned in the contact notes up till here, but in the meditation chamber, all the members of the Figu group have been allowed to use the meditation chamber, where Quetzal had affixed some device on the top of the pyramid in the meditation chamber that is increasing the lifespan of the people using it by about 10 to 12%. And it's commented here that once these people leave the group, within a very short period of time, the influences caused by that pyramid will go away, and their normal lifespan will then be set back in, so that their original time of death would once again come into play. It's mentioned here also that Claire, unfortunately, which is up to now has been one of Billy's closest friends in the group, unfortunately is having so much difficulty, there's so much strain on her too, that she's taking to undermining the mission and wants out and is causing a lot of damage. She's speaking behind Billy's back, and this is a great pain also to Billy. He's also given a list of each person at the center of what they should start doing. The Pleiadians are trying to help Billy establish a little order, and they give him this list of work things that they think each person at the center should do, so Billy wouldn't have to do so much himself, okay? And Billy's given a set of regulations again for the group. Even though they'd drawn up a set of Figu regulations themselves when they founded the group, doesn't seem to be working out very well. No one's sticking to them, at least, some of them aren't. Many of the people, Guido and Bernadette and Jacobus and Engelbert and his wife Maria have always been very faithful from the beginning, and I don't mean to mix them up with these particular problems, including Billy's wife Poppy, who's just my favorite. I just love her. She's so sweet, and she's endured so much difficulties throughout all of these contacts, being a mother and having the difficulty of families, that I can't give enough praise really to her for her personal strength in enduring all this. These people are still with Billy. They endured the entire thing, and they're still hanging in there, so good for them. On the 111th contact, Monday, July 17, 78, Billy is on his way out to the contact. Once before he had difficulties where his nerves were going bad. He was just getting exhausted. Well, this particular time, on the way out to the contact, he just simply fell over in a ditch. He's riding his moped, he has a nervous breakdown, and he just collapses from exhaustion, literally. Quetzal pulls him up into the ship immediately. Billy's in a coma, he's so far gone, and they're very fearful for his life. It takes a few minutes, even with Quetzal's sophisticated technology, to bring Billy around, and it takes some minutes then for him actually to repair some of the nerve damage in Billy's body. Apparently Billy has damaged some of the internal organs. His heart's even beating irregularly, and there was a very close call here. He may have actually even passed away. Billy notices after he comes to that Quetzal and Semjase are over the top of him, and he's a little surprised to actually even find himself in the ship. And they're explaining to him what the damage that he's done to his nervous system, and Billy's kind of giving in. He sees it happening too. He's just exhausted, and he has no mental awareness hardly at all. Quetzal tells him it's going to take about 12 to 14 days for his nerves to regenerate after the treatment that he had just given him. And Billy can't hardly talk straight, and he's kind of dopey. Apparently Quetzal's done something to him to cause him to just like calm down, some sort of induced tranquilizer. He does mention that the device that he used on him to repair the nervous system and bring him back to health was electromagnetic in nature. He doesn't explain exactly how it works, but just the type of process that was used. Billy's then set down close to home where Jacobus picks him up, and Billy has to go home and do a little recuperating for a couple of weeks because he's just in very bad shape. On a later contact, actually on Wednesday, July 19th, it's just a couple of days later, it's the 112th contact. It was a very short one to check in and see how Billy was feeling. About the only thing they talked about, oddly enough, was dancing. Billy wanted to know if they had dancing in the Pleiades. And Quetzal says they had dancing in the Pleiades. And Quetzal says, yes, they do, but as far as he knows, that dancing is like a normal thing that seems to be in just about every race they come across. It has to do with the rhythm and being interested in rhythm and moving to it and so forth, which that seems pretty normal. But he did comment something kind of unusual. He says that on a Pleiadian world, that the men don't dance. The women will dance, but the men don't dance. And here's why. This is kind of unusual. Might give you some insights into something here. He says that in certain cases, that many males are very incomplete in their feeling of being male, and they harbor some feminine tendencies within them, and that dancing brings those out. And if a person, by virtue of having a short rebirth, they call it, if a person comes back into life too fast, faster than they're supposed to, for whatever reason, that there's a tendency for this, where the spirit may be slightly confused about its sex. Apparently what it comes out to is that we have the ability to determine our sex from lifetime to lifetime, and that's something that we need to have programmed in ourselves when we pass away, when we die. That's something that's in our own head. But if it's not, if we die early out of accident, and we're not clear on whether or not we want to be male or female, when you have an accident, you return to birth much faster than you normally do. And in that instance, he says that the inside the spirit may not be exactly sure if it wants to be male or female. There may be some slight confusion in there, and if there is, dancing will bring that out and make the person even more confused. Now, it sounds like what they're talking about here is there could be some sort of explanation in all of this, how homosexuality actually manifests itself. It can be some sort of accident of when a person does not lead a fulfilled life, a long life, perhaps dies short, comes back too fast, and is confused themselves. Maybe that's where it comes from. Okay, we're up to the 113th contact now, and that happened on Sunday, August 6th, 1978. This contact was, again, for Billy's information. There was very little talk at all about the group. It was with Quetzal and Semjase together. Semjase is still attending most of the contacts here. One of the things they talked about, Billy had a question about the Catholic Church. He had been doing some work with his numbers and working on the prophecies of the future and so forth, and wanted to discuss with him if he was correct about the coming times of the future in relationship to the popes. And Quetzal says, yes, I'll run over that for you. He says, shortly there will be a new pope, that the pope that's in office right now will pass away, and it will be time to elect a new one. Now, we're in 1978 here. I'll try to keep the dates straight here so you can follow this. He says this new pope will be elected by 111 cardinals on Saturday, August 26th. His name is Luciani. He will be called Pope Johannes Paul I, Pope John Paul I. Okay? Now, his name will be introduced to these cardinals when they go to vote if in case you're not familiar, there is what's called the Chairs of Rome. The Vatican is actually run by the Chairs of Rome, or the Cardinals, and I don't know exactly how many there are. There's well over 100, and they make the decision. They vote in on who's going to be Pope. Okay, so what has happened here is they're voting in this new guy, Pope John Paul I. His name is Luciani, his real name, and they take, from the moment of time that it's introduced that this man may become Pope, it only takes 33 minutes for them to deliberate and to decide that he should be the next Pope, which apparently is rather quick for them. Well, oddly enough, even though it only took 33 minutes for him to be decided upon, he's going to be dead in 33 days, on September 28th. Here's why. Apparently, after they decide to put him in power, make him the Pope, that they're very surprised by the way this man acts, and it causes a lot of horror, was the word that's used in there, with his behavior. First thing he did is he broke tradition by not wanting a fancy coronation when he became Pope. All he wanted was a simple ceremony, and this really angered the cardinals. And for the weeks that followed, just a couple of weeks after that, he seemed to be offending a lot of the cardinals and causing lots of problems. And apparently the cardinals feel that they are the real power of the Catholic Church, and the Pope is just a figurehead. So already a plot was put into motion to actually kill this poor Pope, or it's going to be put in motion because we're talking in the future here, to kill this poor guy. So Pope John Paul I is already in trouble. They poison him on September 28th at 2307 hours. That's 11 o'clock in the evening, 11:07 in the evening. He's going to be poisoned with a very fast-acting poison that disappears quickly in the body, and it will appear as though he had a heart attack. Now, I remember back in '78 when that happened. The guy was only in office for about a month, and I thought, gee, that's too bad. The poor fellow died of a heart attack just after getting, this job. That, as a religious man, I'm sure it must be the height of your career to become the Pope. So I remember feeling kind of sad for the fellow that he'd probably worked all of his life as a priest and whatever, working his way up, becoming a cardinal, whatever, and then suddenly he becomes Pope, and a month after he becomes Pope, he's dead. But according to the Pleiadians, it was no accident. The cardinals actually poisoned him because they didn't want him any longer as the Pope. Well, one of the other problems was, too, this new Pope will also be too kind to the people. And they apparently don't like that. They like for the popes really to just kind of deal out the rules and laws of Catholicism and work very closely and kind with the cardinals themselves. Kind of sounds like Congress and the president, doesn't it? Well, apparently this Pope, that was another reason why they poisoned him, that they were afraid that he was going to become too friendly with the public, too lenient, and they would lose some of their control and some of their power. Billy questioned, well, whether or not they would actually get caught at this, because apparently they've done it several times in the past where the cardinals have actually poisoned or in other means gotten rid of popes. And Quetzal remarked, no, it's very hard to catch them. You must remember that the Vatican is a separate state in Italy, has its own police force, its own little government, its own post office, and the Italian government or no other government really has authority to investigate or do anything. So they're really a kind of, it's very difficult at all to pursue any kind of investigation and catch them, so they can really kind of get away with it. And Billy thought this was kind of sad that this sort of thing was really happening. Billy's not much for religion, but at the same time he doesn't go along with murder at all. Now this Pope that's getting, Pope John I, who's going to be poisoned, his successor begins the prophecies that Billy's talking about, because there's only going to be 3 more popes now, and he's the 3rd one. There'll be 2 more after him. His name is Pope John Paul II. And he'll be appointed Pope within a month after the death of Pope John Paul I, who dies of poison on September 28th. In October, Pope John Paul II comes into power. His real name is Karol, and I can't pronounce it. It's Wojtyla, Polish name, Wojtyla. Not very good with names. I don't know how to pronounce that. But he will be the 3rd. There are only 3 popes left before the big world change is going to come. He's the 264th